What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Right now, I have two legends of the sport to my right. Hey, James Watson to the far. They say worldwide Watson.
Legend.
And one of my best buddies, Brandon Coulter. And we are on the shores of Watts Bar at Brigadoon. Now, over the last couple of days, you guys have seen some things sort of go down and transpire. Major League Fishing announced yesterday that there will be a new format change for the 2023 season.
No,
format change.
Correction. Sorry, Jacob.
It is a scoring change, which same thing. We all know it's the same thing. Let's just call it how it is. Now, that being said, you guys sort of heard a little bit of what my thoughts were about this. And, I'm always positive at anything that I do. I always feel like I try to be positive. And I wanted to get an opinion of two individuals that I have a lot of respect for. So, first off, hey, we're going to a 5 bass limit, and James, I'm going to start you off. What are your thoughts on this scoring change for the 2020 season?
And we said this was going to be an honest.
100 honest.
With all due respect, I wish we hadn't changed it all.
Yep.
Just for consistency reasons. Really, none other than that. We have to go catch bass. 5, 15, 20, 25, 1. Who cares?
Yep.
The inconsistencies of our league, as a business person, I think the inconsistencies of our league are probably detrimental. That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I completely understand.
That's my feelings on it. Wish we had just not changed it and let the you can't. I always said that in the real estate business. You can't run a radio ad for a week and be effective.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run a company and make so many changes and have such good success with a format and then make a change to it to try to make it better. I just don't see how it's going to be better. I don't see how it's going to be better.
Brandon, you're up next.
So, for me, I come from a different perspective. I've been president of the Anglers Association for a while. So, for me, with a business background, you guys kind of grew up fishing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You guys, that's your background from your start. Not as much James, but for sure you, Jacob.
Absolutely.
And so for me, coming from a business background, I'm a lot like James. Is there's consistency concerns and that kind of stuff. But being on the board for several years and being a president for the last year, I fielded all those phone calls. And whether it was from you, Jacob, or James, or Cliff Crochet, or Brent Chapman, or, Gerald Sporer, whoever it was, I was very fortunate to hear every opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And, I disagree with James a little bit. I respect his opinion. I don't mind change in a positive direction. We are a young sport.
Big time.
Fishing in general is young, it's historically. We're still figuring it out. But Major League Fishing specifically is really young. And so I do think there will be tweaks and there needed to be tweaks. But, just completely going away from it, I'm with James. We still have them in the cups and we still have the team format. We still have some every fish counts.
Yeah, and heavy hitters and the team series, absolutely.
And, I heard from enough guys that wanted this 5-fish format. I've read something yesterday that I thought was really interesting. And Jacob, a lot of it lines up with you. Just be honest. We're going to be completely honest today. There's a lot of talk out there that this was made so guys could compete with you. And I know how good you are at 5 fish.
Well, why don't they just change it and say, okay, you get 5 bass and 1 carp. Guess what? Jacob's still going to catch the biggest carp. I put my money on you.
I agree. I'm just telling you.
It's stupid.
That there a lot of, if you read between the lines, if you listen to what people say, a lot of it is for a more competitive event. Mm-hmm. What's that mean? It means Jacob's never lost. I'm serious. It means that makes every time. The guys, a lot of our guys think it would be a more competitive format at 5 fish. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
If I woke up tomorrow and said, you have to go fish against those 80 guys, what format do you want to fish? Personally, I would pick 5 fish.
Mm-hmm.
I voted to not change the format.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a good change financially and from a business decision. But personally, I would rather compete against our group of guys in five fish.
Yeah, I mean, on my personal side, and that's what's tough. I think that, we all as individual businesses, basically, that we all have to look at this from our own perspective. And for me personally, if I was voting for, if I was like, hey, look, I would have looked at it like, man, for me, like I've got it figured out. I feel really good about this, and I would say, hey, I'd be hoorah, let's go, every fish counts. But I also try to like step back, and it's difficult to step back and sometimes not put your own personal agenda into your twist. And then that's something that I try to do. It's not always easy to do, but it's definitely something that I've tried to do in this particular situation. There's a lot of fans out there that have said that, like, look, I wish you guys would have stayed the same. It's really like a 50-50. The one thing that's very difficult, and I said this on the video yesterday, out of all the polls, there was never one poll that was favoring the every fish counts format. And so that was a tough deal where if it was mine, or if it was Jordan's, or if it was the leagues, or if it was Instagram, Facebook, it didn't matter the demographic, didn't matter how old you were. At the end of the day, the every fish counts format never had the majority.
Never won.
And never won a poll. And so
my poll would have, because I have 4 followers.
No, you have more than 4 followers.
But my poll would have, because it would have been my mother and Jay and my dad.
Well, my whole family follows you, so you got more than 4.
There you go.
Yeah, it does.
6 now.
But
Jacob doesn't follow you yet, but his kids do and his wife does. He's still holding out. Not sure.
Completely a joke.
No, I think that's one thing. I said this. This is the one thing that, like, I think the biggest argument that I hear from a lot of the view on the internet is, hey, look, it's not going to be as exciting. There's not going to be as much change.
That I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. I was talking to Brandon about that earlier, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the cut line and how we're going to transition those few cameras from 18th to the 24th place guy. We're talking about one swing of the bat now instead of maybe 4 swings of the bat in it. And I know they've done their stats, and we were on the meeting yesterday. We were talking about, Andy Montgomery would have won the Red Crest. But in all actuality, would Andy Montgomery made it to the last step? Did they go deeper into the tournament to see if Andy would have made it to the last round?
That's a good point.
That's
a really good point. Yeah.
But it is, to me, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the thought of the cut line right now.
Well, and I think that is the problem and the solution both, right? The problem is no one out there can play our format. The technology's not there yet. And so for someone to play our game, and I said this from the start, the first day I fished a Major League Fishing event, it was in the selects. I tanked it. I did terrible. On the way home, I called my wife and said, I never want to fish another format in my life, because it brought baseball and football and all these other things, because you knew the score, you knew what you had to do, and all that kind of stuff. That is going to be hard to replicate in a 5-fish format. You're still going to know where you are. You're still going to know what you need, but it is, at times, it's going to be too far out of reach.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a stat that I talked to some of the guys at MLF, and I just wanted to sort of get it. So there's a stat at Smith Lake last year. Okay, and I'm not sure exactly which elimination round, but there was the 30th from 30th to 20th place was about 1.5 pounds difference. Now you would have had to catch it would basically, the guy needed at 30th place needed to catch a 2.5 pounder in 30 minutes left. So in those scenarios where things are tight, that could happen very easily. It actually made it tighter where it was actually a 7-pound gap. So I think there's a little bit of both. They've done their work on that side of things. Obviously change is very difficult. Change is, you're like, it's like anything. We've gotten used to this format. We've gotten used to practicing for it. On the places that you don't get a lot of bites, you fish like a 5-fish format, like you did anything. If there's a place that has a lot of bites, you have to change your strategy a little bit. That's just how it was. Yeah. And so now you get a little bit used to something, and then you're like, well, dang. Like now I got to go back and refigure out how I'm going to do this. So I think, the biggest thing that I personally look at, and I've told Brandon this, and I said, for me, one, it is definitely that not everybody can compete in that format and compete in our format. The guys out here competing on Watts Bar every weekend are fishing for 5 fish.
Yep.
And so when we go out there and catch 10 2-pounders, that wouldn't win their 5-fish event. So they don't learn from us as much as a guy going out there catching 5 for 17 to win the tournament. Like, hey, he made an adjustment, ran docks or whatever it is. So I think that's something. And then on top of it is the talent coming up. Okay, the talent coming up from whether it's the Toyota series, your Octafos of the world, your Brandon Polnick, your Jordan Lees of the world. It's hard for those anglers to dream to be in a BPT if they've never fished the format as well. So you lose the value of the talent of the top tier anglers in the world potentially because they can never dream to get to that level. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's another thing that I look at that I'm like, dang. Now, also with a 5-fish deal, I think that there's going to be moments where, hey, you're down by 2 pounds and you got a 1.5 pound in there. You have to catch a 3.5 pounder. You're not going to go out there and drag a worm or something in some grass and catch 2 pounder.
Yeah.
You might go, you're going to make that adjustment. We've never fished a 5-fish limit tournament with Score Tracker. And I think that is something that we're just going to have to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, but it's definitely going to change it.
Yeah. I like what you said right there because that's what we got to find out. Well, the league, has just committed to a whole freaking season of that. We could find out that it ain't worth a crap with one test run. And I believe we should have really looked at the option of having a mixed, this particular is a 5-fish derby, this one's all you can catch derby. We could have cherry picked. I mean, from the very beginning, our very first meeting, there was a couple things said, guys, you anglers can decide. Mm-hmm. We can have a 7-fish derby. We can have a 2-pound minimum. We can have a 5-pound minimum. We can have a tournament on this lake and a tournament on this lake. We did some of that, but we did not ever test the format, the scoring. Mm-hmm. We never did that. All we did was change from 1 pound to 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds, which got a big majority of the haters off of our back on social media by going to a 2 pound, which in most cases.
I'll be the first to admit, I thought 2 pounds was going to slow everything down and be a problem. It did not.
No.
And
how
how
many
I'm
times
wrong on this one? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the point is we don't know.
We don't know, but we're committed now for a whole season.
We are, but we also know, and this is another thing is we also know what has worked over the years. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a lot of people that have watched us in the last 3 or 4 years that don't watch professional bass fishing in a 5-fish format because it doesn't relate to them necessarily. And just because they just go out and they might not fish tournaments, they just go out there and catch bass.
Well, the draw power to our format was the persons that aren't the guys out here fishing tournament on Watts Bar. Mm-hmm. Weren't those the guys and gals that we were trying to pull into the sport and bring to the table? Mm-hmm. I think we did that. I think we are doing that. I think the Cups did that, So to go to the 5-fish to capture a guy that we've already got caught might not necessarily be the best business move.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 things to that, James, that are important to think about. There is, our sponsors, are they selling baits to an avid angler that fishes tournaments, that is the guy that goes through, 9 frogs on a good frog weekend, or are they going after a guy that's
never picked up a rod?
It's not picked up a rod, but he's watching the sport. But now he may go buy one, so he may go buy a frog, And I think that's one driving force behind this.
I would agree.
Is the avid angler spends more money, and listen, the money makes the world go round.
Yeah,
let's just be clear. That is what is going to drive almost every decision we ever make. Now, what I don't think will happen is I think we will lose some of the general public fan. And the reason for that is we now have to educate people that Brandon has 4 fish and he catches a 3-pounder. So he gets a 3-pound jump. Mm-hmm. James has 5 fish but has a 1-pounder. Mm-hmm. So he catches a 3-pound fish. He gets a 2-pound jump. Mm-hmm. Jacob has all 4-pounders. Shocker. And that same 3-pounder, we all three catch a 3-pounder at the same time. Jacob does not get any gain from that.
Yeah.
I gain 3 pounds, you gain 2 pounds.
Yeah.
That is going to confuse my mother.
Yeah.
You know, or someone that hasn't followed the sport their whole life. In baseball, when a guy crosses home plate,
It's one.
they get a point.
Yep.
You know, it's they know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So I worry to some extent that while we will sell more baits, I have
There's
no
no doubt.
doubt. I think we will do a better job for our sponsors in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
In the long term, will we lose casual fans that just like sport? I mean, the Phillies, I'm going to tout them. The Phillies are playing in the World Series. There's going to be a lot of people that watch the World Series this next week that aren't baseball fans.
No doubt.
And that's what's going to drive the revenue and the TV shows that are going to drive why the players make, you know, $130 million on 10-year contracts. Will our endemics drive our revenues to where we want them to go? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that right now in the space we're at right now, the majority of us, the majority, I'd say 80% of sponsor dollars come from endemic sponsors through our group.
Agreed.
And so that's what's really, I think, definitely has driven that as well. And that's what's tough. I mean, that is like if your livelihood is dependent on the companies that you work with, and they're like, look, we need you to be, out there repping our stuff in a five-fish way. I think that definitely changed it a little bit. Now, if you are commenting on this video right now, okay, if you're commenting on this video and you say, well, I like the five fish because you guys catch 1-pounders, you have not watched that BPT in the last 3 years, so you might as well just stop that. I see those comments and I'm just like, stop it. Please stop it. Yeah. You guys literally just come on here trolling for no reason. Get out of here, please.
Get on with it, getting on.
Get on, please. Yes.
That is the biggest misnomer of what we do.
Oh, it is. 100%.
It is. Fans constantly say that. And the truth is, and I actually had a really good conversation with Michael Neal. Michael does not switch styles. Mm-hmm. Fishing a 5-fish format or fishing an every fish counts format. And he won the AOI in a 5-fish format, and he finished, I'm sure, top 5. Like
he top 10 or top 5, yeah.
In our format.
Yeah.
Another guy that I think the world of, Randall, Randall's a 5-fish guy.
Yeah.
Right? Randall loves a 5-fish format. Randall
made a top 10 in points.
Made a top 10 in points in the every fish format. Counts.
Yeah.
And you go back in history in our league, even at a 1-pound format, Bobby Lane won the world championship. What was he doing? Was Bobby throwing a frog?
I think he was frogging and flipping.
Frogging and flipping.
I think he was frogging and flipping.
Hackney won the world championship, flipping a jig.
Yep.
You won
on a chatterbait and a spinnerbait.
Yeah, well, they're little fish baits, aren't they?
Yeah, I got to say 22 pounds that day.
So the point is everyone can say we're Dinkfest or this. Our tournaments are won the exact same way.
They are
won in 5-fish events. If you pay attention,
it's a season, it's a pattern, it's a technique.
It's the same deal.
Yeah, a fish is a fish is a fish.
The only time it changes is when you go. Well, patterns don't change as much, or the baits don't change as much. But it does change your strategy when you go up north. North, a lot of people have said that too. And the negative, but this is also something I wanted to bring up. So, scenario. Next year, it's every fish counts on Saginaw Bay.
Largemouth.
Tournament's going to be one largemouth. So many people on here say, hey, I hate live scoping tournaments. I hate active target tournaments, which I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, that tournament had an opportunity, and it still could be one with largemouth. I would assume half the top 10, I do believe, half the top 10 will be largemouth guys.
Yeah.
But you would have had like 80 or 90% would have been largemouth fishing, and it would have been insane.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that we at that format brought a little bit of something different. Look at St. Clair.
Yeah.
Or Andy Morgan. Look at Wesley Strader won his round, largemouth. That doesn't happen in a BFL.
No.
They don't win those tournaments in a largemouth. But Andy had, I think, 25 pounds in his best 5 that knockout round day. Largemouth would have won probably any smallmouth, any tournament out there. Yeah, it was stupid. Yeah.
Well, Champlain, I mean, I go back to Champlain forever, and I always fish smallmouth. Mm-hmm. We were there, and you won, but I I don't think 9 ounces from making the championship round, winning my round with Lucas. All largemouth, all up north, and not at Missisquoi, just in the bays up north. And I would have never fished that way at Champlain. But the guy, the commenters, right, that say it's boring to watch, forward-facing sonar and live scope, I was flipping. I got so many comments from even our own anglers and said, man, I was so jealous. I watched you out on Champlain with a flipping stick in your hand just busting them and almost won the round. We won't be able to do that anymore.
I mean, I don't know. They'll definitely
they'll go to Ticonderoga. They'll go to Missisquoi. But doing what I was doing, which was catching, 2.5 and 3 and 3.5 pounders on a flipping, I mean, just having a blast.
You won't. You
can't do that anymore.
You can mix it in.
Right.
You could definitely mix it in.
You can make a stop there.
You can make a stop
whack
there
a couple.
and mix it in, but you can't commit your day there because know at the end of the day that's going to get you a 30th, or that's going to get you a just inside the cut potentially.
I would have never
at best.
Done that. Right.
Yeah, but that's part of it. Which, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but I think we sort of got a good idea of like, what these guys' opinions are. Now, the thing was that, to be honest with you guys, there was a vote. And the majority, I think it was 70% of the votes were for 5 fish in our league. So there was anglers, as far as the anglers here. I mean, I do see both sides. You guys know from my videos, I'm in the middle. Like, I try to sort of look both ways. I'm a pretty positive individual, so I get to go bass fishing for a living. We all get to go bass fishing for a living.
That's
so
positive right there.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
we're very fortunate.
Make a living doing something else, making this kind of money.
No, and I don't think any one of us are negative. We want to go do it. We're going to make the most out of this.
We
format, are, and I think you're going to tune in and you're going to see guys completely change what we've done for 3 and 4 years, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be compelling, and live's going to be awesome, and we get to do it with a 5-fish format, like you said, on Score Tracker.
I think it was going to help.
Never happened before.
I think it's going to help. I think Norman was a great 5-fish limit tournament. Every fish counts. I don't know if I would have enjoyed that one for Redcrest. I think that one's the places where you catch a lot of fish. 5 fish is a great place to do that. Now, places where it's a little bit different, like Eufaula, where you catch 8 bites a day. Every fish counts is more enjoyable to me because it's like, hey, look, every single bass you catch matters. Yeah. So we're going to find out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Do me a favor. Give both these guys a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Brandon Coulter, James Watson. I appreciate you guys so much.
Thanks,
It was a lot of fun.
Good job.
We will see you on the next one.